Peace Familia. I am back with another one, and we're just making this continuous. Today is just a follow-up on the most previous message, which was just called Growth in the Darkness. Gratitude, peace, joy, all of that in the darkness. And I had an analogy of being planted in the earth, in the darkness of the earth, and how it's really impossible to grow anything unless you allow it to go into that darkness place, and then it can grow up a whole plant. But if you never planted it, all you would ever have is a seed and the potential for a plant, but you'd never have a full plant. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is what happens when you get planted in the darkness of the earth. And for a lot of people, this is a very scary moment because it feels like you're being buried alive, like you're dead, like I'm about to die, I'm literally buried underground, it's dark here, and like, what am I gonna do? And so I wanted to talk to you guys about this experience because I've gone through this experience. I know many people have, millions of people have, but if you are currently going through that experience and you feel like you have been buried underground, you don't know what to do, this message is for you. So, what happens when you get planted in the earth? Now, we know already that when you get planted, this is an opportunity for growth. So if all of us are a seed, you're born as a seed, and you have the potential for so many different things, right? And over the course of our lifetime, many of us never achieve a lot of the things that, we never achieve our potential. A lot of us never do. And that's because I think that a lot of us live in a state of fear. We live in fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of looking stupid, fear of people really seeing the true us, fear of people judging us, all types of fears. And instead of living in our faith and living in the hope and the trust of things being successful, we live in the fear of what could happen or what already used to have happened, and then it prevents us, it stagnates us from moving forward. And so what happens is we know that when you get planted in the earth, if you are one of the very fortunate little seeds that gets planted in the darkness of the earth, you know for a fact, it's undoubtable that the reason this happened to you is so that you will grow, right? That somebody, some being, something, I don't know what it is, planted you, dug a hole, put you in there so that you would grow. Now, what happens when we put a seed in the earth, right? What happens when we put a seed? If you ever have watched those not stop motion, but like those videos of I guess it's slow motion, like where they record over time and then I guess speed it up so you can see what happens. And you see that what happens is the seed goes in the soil, right? It's dark there. You add some type of water, there's obviously some type of nutrients in the soil. The shell of the seed will actually break open and the roots will start going downward. After that happens, then the little leaf will start going upward. And then after some time, if you are not underneath the soil, you can't see anything happening. It looks like nothing is happening at all, right? You're like, I put this seed in there, nothing's going on. Where is my seed? But then over time, you see a little leaf start to sprout up, right? And then over time it starts to sprout and sprout and sprout, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you're like, oh wow, I have a whole plant. But there are stages that happen during that time of being deep in the earth. And so let's just talk about those stages. First of which is death. And it's technically ego death. It's not physical death, like you're not actually dying, right? Like I've gone through it, I'm alive, right? So you hear me talking, I'm not dead. So if anyone's scared and you're like, oh my God, I got planted in the darkness of the earth, I'm about to die, it's not really a real death. It's a spiritual death. It's a death of the avatar, of the external shell, just like the shell of the seed, right? It's a death of that external part the external part that is false. It's the false you. It's the shell that you're born in, the protective barrier, right? And so a lot of us misidentify ourselves with that shell, and we think that I am the shell, right? So imagine that you're in a seed state and you're a little seed. Let's say you're a pumpkin seed, right? It's pumpkin season. It's like the fall for right now, and let's say you're a pumpkin seed. and you have a hard shell, and you are scared of being planted in the earth because you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen if I get planted in the earth? I'm gonna die, right? I'm gonna lose everything that I know right now. Everything that I know right now is all I have is a shell, and on my inside I have all my nutrients, and all I need is myself, right? And so I'm contained, I'm bound up tightly in this little potential, and I'm holding on for dear life because I don't want to let it go. I don't want to burst forth, not knowing, right, that once I burst forth, now I'm going to be a whole beautiful pumpkin. But right now I'm just a seed, and it's scary. And a lot of people get stuck there. They get stuck in this fear state, and they refuse to be planted in the soil. They refuse. They're like, I will not. I will stay here as a seed. I will stand strong as a seed. And they're that strong little seed forever. And they might be strong on the outside, but they never grow into their full potential because they refuse to allow that breakdown to happen. They refuse to allow that transformation to happen. And so they remain in this state that's beautiful in itself, but it's not the fullness of what they could have become if they were to let go and surrender to the process of being planted in the earth. So this is called ego death. The ego is simply our avatar, our external, right? And a lot of times we get attached to that. We get attached to it and say like, well, you know, I am somebody who, like, let's say you might get attached to your career. You might get attached to your family. You might get attached to the way you look like, and be so stuck to that, that any change to that feels like something from you is being lost, right? So like if I identify with my career, and I'm not saying that it's not good to have accomplishments, but it's not good to be attached to them, right? So we can work without attachment, and that's the part that we're separating out. We're separating out the attachment. So you get obsessed with your job, you love what you do, but then it becomes your identity. It becomes who you are, right? And so the problem with that is what happens if and when at some point everything changes. That is no longer what you do, right? You might change careers, or you might even retire. So what happens when you retire and now you put all of your identity into this is who I am, but now you're not doing that anymore, and you're sitting around like, wait, who am I now, right? And so then you start to realize, or whatever it is, your kids, and then the kids grow up, or whatever it is, there's so many things. The looks, you might be identifying with the way you look like and your hair, you know, and if something happens where that's gone, then who are you? And the ego death is that experience of feeling like you're being buried alive, like, oh my God, I'm losing who I am. When in reality, you were never that to begin with, right? It was just a suit, like it was just an outfit, it was just the shell on the outside. And I think we need to learn to disidentify with that outside part and really focus on the inside part, which is who you really, really are. So that's the first part, is ego death. It feels like you're literally being buried alive, and it can feel terrifying, it can feel scary, it can feel like you're on like unsure footing, right? So if you're used to being like, this is who I am, like you strong, right? But like, you know, when you get planted, all of a sudden now you're in a new environment, your shell starts to break open, and then your roots start to come out, and you're like, wait a second, my bottom just fell out. The bottom just fell out of my life, right? And so if you're at that place where you're like, the bottom just fell out of my life, that's actually can be a really good thing. And like, I know some of y'all are gonna be mad at me for saying this and be like, how can you say that it's a good thing that like my life fell apart, or that the bottom fell out of my life, or everything is like up in the air? When if that's happening, everything happens for a reason. Like that didn't happen for no reason, fam. Like, so like if you're in that place where it feels like the bottom fell out, there's a reason for that, right? And so I think first of all, we need to stop like feeling sorry for ourselves and be like, oh my God, this happened, it's so bad. Instead, just look at it and say like, okay, this is what's going on. It feels as though the bottom fell out. It feels like everything is shifting, changing, and I don't really know where to put my footing, right? I don't really know like where the next step even should be, right? I feel like I'm on like the floor became lava, right? The floor is lava, and like I don't even know where to step next, right? I think the question, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, is like, why? Why did that need to go? And what is coming? Why did that need to go, and what is coming? Just keep thinking about that. Why did that need to go, and what is coming? And a lot of times you'll see that whatever it is that you needed to let go of, in the moment, it feels like a loss. In the moment, you're like, I lost something. I lost whatever, right? Or my shell cracked open. Ouch, it hurts. But like, it is for a purpose, right? So a lot of times, like if it's a, let's say it's a job, it could be a relationship, it could be all kinds of different things that get removed from your life. I promise you, even though in the moment it might feel like it sucks, over time you will see that it's totally for the best. Over time you'll see, like, wait, if I had stayed in this job, I would have never gotten this new job that I wanted, right? I would have never found this new career that I would have never thought of if I had never lost that job. Or you'll see, like, this person that I was with, I was bummed when we broke up, and then I see their true character, their true personality come through, and wow, I'm really glad that I'm not with that person, because now I would have been attached to that. I would have had a child with that person if we had gotten married, right? And now I would have been stuck with this bad person forever, right? And so you realize, like, letting go, like surrendering, letting it go, and trying to relax in that process, right? Trying to have that ease and that flow. And so you're in the soil, your little shell cracks open, and it might even hurt. Like, I'm not being funny, like it might hurt, like you might feel it, like you might be like, ouch, like this hurts, like it feels like I'm getting pinched right now. Like, what the heck, man? Like, what the heck, God? Like, why are you pinching me? You know, like, stop pinching me. But like, sometimes you need that. Like, sometimes if we're honest about it, sometimes you were either going down the wrong direction, sometimes you were having bad behaviors, like behaviors that were not beneficial to you or that were not beneficial to others. Let's be real about it, that needed to be deaded in their tracks. And if you hadn't been cracked open, you would be continuing to go on that path, like, right? So sometimes we need like a little, like, pop, you know, like to get you to be like, what the heck, like, leave me alone. But like, and so in that moment you feel that way, but then you're like, you right, like, okay, you right? And so surrendering to that feeling of being cracked open. A lot of times that cracking open is really your heart getting cracked open, right? So we have this little shell, we have our little seed, and we have this hard exterior that a lot of us have. And you know, as living in this is a cruel world, man. Like this, I mean, there's some beauty, there's so much beauty in this world, but I mean, especially if you're living in 2023, this can be a cruel world. And so it feels like self-protection to put on this identity, put on this shell, you know, go out here strong, go out here, you know, and but sometimes it can actually prevent us from accessing those things that we really need. And because we're so busy keeping this persona, keeping this like false exterior, like we want people to think that we're strong and that we're perfect and that we're the best. Like, I'm the best, I'm great, you know, I want y'all to think that. And so when you start to feel the shell starting to crack open, it can feel like you're being exposed, right? And especially if you are not in an honest and authentic place. And that's why I said sometimes we have to look at ourselves and think, like, have I been doing things that have been in the shadows? Like, have I been out here portraying this, but then back here I'm doing this? Like, you know? And so if you're that person, I'm not judging it, I'm just saying from experience what it is, right? If you're that person and your shell starts to get cracked open, it can feel like all of a sudden you're being exposed, right? Or if, let's say, even someone starts to shine a light, like a bright light on you, and it can even feel like someone's judging you, like that they're judging you or that they're making fun of you, and it's like they might not even know what you've been doing. It's self-judgment, right? Because you realize now, all of a sudden that shell starts to crack open, you realize that you've been over here hiding your dirt, doing all this over here, and then putting this external veneer. And now, as the shell starts to crack open, these two worlds start to collide, right? The hidden part and the external part start to become to one. And that's part of the ego death, is that you're no longer hiding this over here and that over here. It's like everything becomes authentic, everything becomes truth. And that's like, for me, what ego death really, for me, like the reason I'm able to make these videos now in a way that I wasn't able to make them like a year ago is simply that authenticity, where I was still hiding certain things in the shadows and putting other things in the front. And so when you put a camera in front of you for an hour and you're still living in the shadows, or you're still trying to hide, or you're still not totally being authentic, then like there is fear there because you're like, uh-oh, what's gonna come out? Like, I don't know what I'm gonna say, you know, or you don't want people to. I've had friends who it's really fascinating, who love me and I love them, who will like really kind of avoid talking to me on the phone, which I find interesting, right? Like we'll send text messages, and then I'll call them and they'll make every excuse in the book that they can't talk to me on the phone. And over time, like I'm not talking about like one time, I mean like over time, and people who they'll respond in a heartbeat, like in a minute, be like, oh hey, I saw that you called, right? Or they might even answer the phone. I remember one of my friends would even answer the phone and immediately every time be like, hey, I have to go, I'll call you back, and then never call me back. And like that to me is that inauthenticity, right? There's something there, and this is something I actually talked to the friend about. I was like, what is it that you don't feel that you can talk to me, right? And why is it that like you can text me, but there's like some blockage here, or there's something in the way that you don't feel like comfortable having a phone conversation where, you know, and a phone conversation is different. If in a video call is a little bit different because you can't hide your face, you can't hide your expressions. You know, someone asks you a question and then they pause. It's a little bit different than when you're texting and you know you don't expect a text message always in the next second, right? And so I think a lot of us, so many of us, are putting up this strong veneer, especially for social media and all of that. And that's cool, man. Like, that's cool. I respect it. You know, y'all want to look strong, and that's cool. But, like, if you really want to grow to that next level, you have to let it go. Like, you have to let it go, because that true cracking open of that heart center, and the removal of that external veneer will never happen as long as you're holding on to a persona, or holding on to, like, you know, like I was thinking the other day, like anybody who legit says to you that they don't have any demons, I don't trust them. I don't trust it. I don't trust not a single person. If they can say with a straight face to you, they have no demons, nothing. Are you kidding me? It's a lie. It's a straight up, dead, bold-faced lie. Everybody does. Either, and even if, like, let's say, like, for me, like, I used to smoke weed every day, right? That, for me, is a demon. I don't smoke weed every day now, right? I'm sober. I'm dead sober right now. But I would be lying to you if I was like, I don't have any demons. Nah, I'm good. Like, I don't have anything. That's not true, right? Because the reality is, you know, if I'm around some friends who are smoking some weed, like, that's gonna be a point of thought for me. Like, I might have a feeling about it. I might desire it, and you know, so there's still that feeling of like, you know, it may not be actively on me, but it's still a demon that I have, right? And so anyone who says that they don't have anything, that they're not dealing with anything, that they're just, oh, my shit's just clean and perfect, like, nah, fam. Like, no, it is not. And so I think the more we come to that real and honest place, like, look, I'm not perfect. I'm not pretending, like, I'm not trying to fake the funk like I am. I'm telling y'all out of my experience of what it was for me. Like, I'm not telling you my opinion about what it should be or what it could be. Like, I'm telling you, like, from experience what it is, you know? And so in this breaking down, in this soil part, there is a breaking down. And if you're not ready for that, it can feel terrifying. There is a breaking down. You will be broken down. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. Like, that shell will crack open, your heart will pop open. A lot of times there will be heartbreak or sadness or some type of feeling that is released in that. And it could be any number of things that can trigger it, you know. In real life, a lot of times it looks like someone dying. It looks like losing a partner or a job, you know. So, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, be happy when bad things happen, but to just see that there's a reason that things happen in our lives that help us to grow, and that you have to embrace that if you want to grow. Now, if you want to be that person who's stagnant and never grows and is the same as they have been since they were 2 years old, that's fine. You know, that's what you want to do. That's what you can do, right? But if you want to keep evolving and keep leveling up and leveling up and leveling up inside, spiritually, right? As a evolving adult, right, to become more mature in the way you deal with others, more mature in your relationships, the way you deal with yourself, more mature in your business and being responsible. Like, if that's what you want, then you have to embrace these things, right? And so embracing that breakdown, like, and it could look like any number of things, and embracing that shift and that change of, like, I don't really know exactly how I feel in my skin right now. Like, if you look at like reptiles, they literally shed their skin. Like their old skin is actually starts to slough off, right? And if you ever see them, like they're kind of like scratching, like they're rubbing up on stuff to kind of get it off. And I think that we, in a metaphorical way, that same thing happens. Like the old skin will start to come off, and some of us will try to like straight up pull it back on and have this weird ugly looking skin trying to hold on to the old instead of just letting it go, man. And so embracing that breakdown, because the next thing that happens after that breakdown happens is that the roots start to go down into the earth, right? Those roots, that grounding, that foundation starts to get built, and it's strong. What you had before as a seed is not strong. It might have the appearance of being strong because it has that shell, right? You have that hard shell, right? But once it's cracked open and the roots go deep into the ground, now that is strong, right? If you look at these trees behind me, I'm looking at a tree right in front of me, like that's strong. Those trees equally started as seeds, right? As little tiny seeds that were weak. They could be thrown here and there. This is the thing with a seed. You can just throw it, you can toss it. It can go from here to there. It has no like stability within itself. It goes with the wind, right? So if you're a little seed, you'll just go over here because these people think that, and you'll just go over there because those people think that, you know, and someone might pick you up and toss you. You might get eaten by a bird, pooped out, right? That's the life of a seed, man. If that's what you want, and a lot of y'all are out here floating around, and that, you know, I was floating around for a long time, really probably longer than I needed to be, floating around, getting eaten by birds, pooped out, right? Like, that's what you want, you got it. This is for people that want to become a full tree, okay? So like, once you let that go, and those roots go into that ground, man, that's strong. Like, that's real strength, right? That's having to, one, if you're a seed and you're kind of going from here to there, everywhere, you're unstable, you're uncommitted, you're not really able to put your stamp anywhere, right? You're not committed to, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're not able to really stand firm on any belief, anything. You're just kind of like, well, it could be like that, and it could be that, and maybe I'll do this, and maybe I'll do that, and that sounds good, and that sounds good too, and that's awesome too. But there's a point where, like, you have to put your roots down somewhere. And so once you do that, that is when you start becoming strong on a whole different level, right? And so before those little leaves start to even come out, like, all this is happening before the leaves even start to come out. Your shell's popped open, your heart's cracked open, your roots start to go down, that foundation starts to get built. It starts to become strong. You start to build a network. If you think about trees and mushrooms, a mycelium network, you realize that trees actually have a network underground where their roots will actually connect to each other. The mycelium network of mushrooms, they will actually begin to connect with each other underground, right? We have that same capacity, but like, while you're a seed, you might be amongst other seeds, right? Think about this. You might be in a pot or a bowl with other seeds, but you're not really connected to each other, right? But the roots of a full tree underground can actually connect and share information in a whole different plane than what a seed can, just amongst the seeds, right? Just sitting there. And so the seeds think, oh, well, look, I'm with 100 other seeds, right? But like, they don't really have that real connection. Versus this one tree and that one tree and that one tree, they might not be as close together, but their roots, their connection is so much stronger and deeper and deep into the earth. And that when things happen now, if you've been living as a seed this whole time, you think, oh my God, life is so hard and scary because I'm just going here and there and I'm getting eaten and pooped out, right? And wow, this is scary, right? But once you're a tree, you realize, oh wow, I'm strong now, right? Like, the wind can come, the trees can, the birds can come, and I'm not uprooted anymore. I'm not all over the place anymore. I feel stable. And that's the exciting part, right? That now, you know, you're finally, as that root system starts to grow and become strong, then that little leaf starts to come up, and the root starts to get, the tree starts to get thicker. Let's say you're a pumpkin seed, you start to fill out, you know, you start to look really beautiful. And if you're a tree, now that bird that used to eat you and poop you out, now you're the such a big tree that the birds can come and rest in your leaves, in your branches, right? You're that big and that strong that you're no longer that little seed that was eaten and pooped out. Now you are the entity that can be the home for the birds, right? And their children. Like, think about like how a huge shift in consciousness this is, to go from a seed to a tree, like to a full plant. It is a huge shift in consciousness and a huge shift in experience, and it feels scary going from one form. You're literally changing form fundamentally. You might look the same on the outside, but you're changing form almost fundamentally on the inside, from one type of being to a whole different type of being. And it can feel terrifying, and it can feel like, how am I ever gonna be like a tree like that? Like, how is that ever possible when I'm just this little thing, and I feel like I just died, and I'm sitting here in the earth, like it's dark here, and I don't have no friends anymore. You know, I was with all these seeds, and now I'm down here, and it's dark and scary and lonely, right? You can feel lonely, isolated. You know, all of a sudden some water comes, you're like, there's water now, it's wet, you know, you're like, oh, like this is just so like, oh, like, like, oh. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, once your little tendril starts to go up, you're like, oh, okay, I like this, you know, like, and that's all the best way I can explain it. It's awesome, right? And I'm saying this, I'm still in it, like I'm still like in the middle of this, like I'm still like, I feel like I'm just a little baby tree, like, you know, but I do feel like I've gone through the process of like that seed breaking open and being in that fear state. And that's how I want to make this video for y'all, because it can feel like terrifying, like straight up scary. And that you don't have to be scared, you know, that it's really gonna be okay. And not only okay, but like you are about to be on a whole different like stratosphere than what you ever were at before. And you know, it requires surrendering, letting go of what you used to be, you know, letting go of what you used to do. Sometimes even letting go of the people you used to be around, right? You used to be around a whole bunch of other seeds, and it's time for you to get planted. You know, you can't, you know, in order to become a tree, you can't hold on to your seed friends, right? Like at some point you may see them again, you know, and it's gonna be beautiful when you are a big glorious tree, and then you look over there and you're like, oh man, look, hey, you're a big glorious tree too, you know, like that's awesome. But like for a period of time, you're gonna have to be separated from your little seed friends, you know. And as you work on your little planting, and then they get planted over there, and maybe they get planted over there, maybe one of your seed friends got eaten by a bird and pooped out way over there, you know, and you're not going to see them for a long time, but that's okay. Letting go of all that, and then embracing the new, letting go of the old, embracing the new, letting go of the old, embracing the new. And there are still elements. It's not like you're a whole different than what you used to be, right? But you've just changed form. And so I just wanted to, as always, just kind of be real, share from my experience, and encourage someone else who is like literally going through the same things that I've been going through, and wondering like, am I okay? Like, am I okay right now? Like, I feel like I'm in the darkness and this is weird, and my little shell just cracked open and it hurts, like, I don't like it, you know? And then just to encourage somebody else, like if you're right there right now and you're watching this, you are actually in the best position ever, and embrace it, you know, allow the transformation to happen, and just go with it, you know. And that's really all I've got for you guys right now. As always, if you got something out of this video, please make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and maybe comment something. If you don't know what to say, just give me a heart. And I love you guys, and as always, I will see you on the next one. Peace.